Chris Jericho is one of the greatest and most respected wrestlers of all time. So this video isn't necessarily going to be me telling him to retire, because quite frankly, he's earned the right to do whatever he wants to do. And on top of that, who am I to tell him to retire? More so, this video is acknowledging the reality of the current situation regarding Jericho's career. His most recent stuff he's done with AEW, particularly in the last few years, has not gone over so well amongst wrestling fans, even the diehard fans of AEW. At one point, he received "please retire" chants from the crowd live on Dynamite.
Jericho could get a couple, he might get the win here. I don't want to see him win the FTW title. I get that, but man, well, at least
seemingly, people have grown tired of the legendary wrestler. With that said, Jericho is one of the most recognizable WWE stars from the 2000s and 2010s, thanks to his longevity and knack for reinvention. And when he left WWE in 2018 to have dream matches with the likes of Kenny Omega and Naito in Japan, Jericho's stock was at an all-time high. He parlayed that momentum into becoming the top star for startup American promotion All Elite Wrestling. Jericho swore he'd never work for another promoter in the United States aside from Vince McMahon and WWE. Of course, Tony Khan gave Jericho millions of reasons to reconsider that notion. Jericho main evented the promotion's first ever show, Double or Nothing, in May of 2019 against Kenny Omega. Then he wrestled Adam Page in the main event of All Out in August, where he became the first ever AEW champion. To be honest, this feels like it was Jericho's peak. Not only his peak in AEW, but the peak of his career, perhaps. At this point, he was widely regarded as a GOAT, which he even used as a nickname. He was certainly in most wrestling fans' top 10s, and was pushing into the Mount Rushmore conversation. Since then, Jericho's stock has plummeted entirely, as he has been exposed for his age and weight issues, while fans question if he has the star power to be the face of a company. Perhaps Jericho just needs a break. During his later tenure with WWE, he was notorious for taking breaks to focus on his music career or other outside endeavors. His absence made him grow fonder to our hearts as fans. Most would agree that Jericho has been a shell of himself lately, and some would even say he is tarnishing his legacy. Jericho was arguably at his peak from 2016 to 2019, where it felt like he was finally getting his flowers as a legend. Flowers he had been working for 20 plus years to earn. Nowadays, those times on top feel like ancient history, and it is tough to watch him get little to no crowd reaction at AEW shows. From winning the Ring of Honor World Championship to a seemingly never-ending feud with Hook, it seems like fans everywhere are suffering from Jericho fatigue. He's now at the point in 2025 where he is a mid-carder in AEW, shoehorning himself to work with anyone that has any sort of relevancy, which is a tough spot to see him in as a fan of his. How did we get here? Honestly, there are several factors that contributed to Jericho's fall from grace amongst wrestling fans. Some pertain to his performance inside the ring, but other factors, whether political, a hilarious interaction with Jericho and casual fans online, or allegations against him becoming public knowledge, play a role. Let's take a look at the downfall of a wrestling legend in Chris Jericho. Jericho began wrestling in 1990, shortly after completing wrestling school. During training, he met fellow wrestler Lance Storm. Jericho has stated that he likely wouldn't be where he is today if not for meeting Storm. Storm was the only guy as committed as Jericho, and they leaned on each other for support during their early years. He became a bit of a pioneer, as he, along with legends like Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, were some of the first wrestlers to make their name internationally before signing with WWE. This blueprint became popular in the late 2000s and the 2010s after CM Punk and Daniel Bryan made it mainstream. Jericho had success in Germany, Japan, and Mexico, before finally receiving his big break in 1996 with ECW. Within a few months of working at ECW, Jericho caught the attention of Eric Bischoff, who signed him to WCW. Jericho wrestled with World Championship Wrestling until 1999. His most notable performances there included a segment where he listed all 1,004 holds he had mastered. Hilariously, he went to the White House and accused President Bill Clinton of conspiring against him after losing the WCW Cruiserweight title to Dean Malenko. The straw that broke the camel's back for Jericho in WCW was when he began a feud with Goldberg. He built up the feud well and grew anticipation for the match. However, Goldberg refused to work with him, to which Bischoff agreed. After this incident, he knew he was unlikely to become a star with WCW, so he sought the greener pastures of WWE. Jericho felt he could become a star under Vince McMahon, and he was not wrong. Jericho had one of the greatest debuts in wrestling history when his countdown clock expired while The Rock was in the ring cutting a promo. Just 2 years after his debut with the company, Jericho would win the undisputed title at Vengeance 2001 by pinning The Rock for the WCW title and Stone Cold for the WWE title in the same night. This man became a certified legend after this night. It was a huge deal to beat not just The Rock, but Stone Cold on the same night, no less. Jericho went on to become a mainstay for WWE's upper mid-card until his first departure in 2005. Although Jericho is one of the all-time greats, he was never used as a main star of the company, aside from sporadic moments, which led to his frustration. During this run, Jericho also had one of the greatest matches of all time with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 19. He would rekindle this feud shortly after his return to WWE in 2007. During this time, he was also linked to some controversies, one being a video of him assaulting a female fan, which was caught on camera. He was never charged for the incident since he was being harassed by fans and security wasn't doing their job properly. To be fair, the fan did grab him as he was getting into his car. Around this time, he was also photographed kissing Kelly while being married. Kelly isn't the only diva he was involved with apparently, as he was also linked to Trish Stratus at one point too. And then there was the Brazilian flag incident. Aside from these incidents, Jericho kept a relative clean slate outside of the ring until the incidents started snowballing during his AEW tenure. From his 2007 return on, he was a mainstay with WWE until leaving for good in 2018 after the Greatest Royal Rumble event. During his second run with the company, he displayed a new trait of reinventing his character frequently. This is one of the many things that led to his becoming a legend. Jericho was arguably the most entertaining act on WWE TV in 2016 after debuting his List of Jericho persona. He regularly entertained with some of the funniest content of the PG era, proving that even with the shackles of the PG era, he could be great. Eventually, he formed a tandem with Kevin Owens. The duo would then become best friends. Owens turned on Jericho in one of the best Raw segments of the past decade. This was supposed to lead to a WrestleMania main event match between the two for Owens' Universal title. That was until Goldberg stepped in. Vince decided to hotshot the title to Goldberg just a month before WrestleMania 33, so Goldberg and Brock Lesnar could face off for the title at the event. This led to Jericho reconsidering his options and making the decision to leave WWE again, a decision that would alter the history of wrestling forever. Jericho took a gamble on himself at age 47, still feeling like he had a lot left in the tank. This gamble paid off huge for Jericho as he would go on to help found WWE's biggest competition in 2 decades. It's fun to think about. Would there have been an AEW if a huge star like Jericho wasn't a free agent at the time? I'm sure Tony Khan would have made it work either way, but having Jericho around to be the top star during AEW's infancy was a nice touch. After working a 5-star match at Wrestle Kingdom 12 against Kenny Omega in 2018, Jericho took a breath of fresh air. He was enamored with the wrestling revolution going on outside of WWE, spearheaded by Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega, and he wanted to be a part of it. After his match with Omega and several other appearances in New Japan, and an appearance at 2018's All In, Jericho's stock was at an all-time high. Jericho was on another level. We all knew he could talk on the mic and tell great stories in the ring, but now he was putting on banger matches too. Everybody in the wrestling world was talking about Jericho. He could do no wrong. This continued well into the first year of AEW's existence, as he was the inaugural AEW champion and continued to reinvent himself time and time again. This time he founded one of the hottest factions in wrestling, known as the Inner Circle. He highlighted up-and-comers like Sammy Guevara and Santana and Ortiz, while making Jake Hager, formerly known as Jack Swagger, relevant again. It felt like Jericho could do no wrong. He even got his own brand of champagne. He and Cody brought a level of entertainment value to AEW that it needed to balance out the great in-ring action. Jericho lost the AEW title to Jon Moxley in a move that passed the torch to the present superstar of AEW. Losing the title didn't slow Jericho's momentum by any stretch of the imagination. He went on to feud with Orange Cassidy. Cassidy ultimately won the feud. It was evident that Jericho greatly elevated Cassidy, a theme he would continue when he feuded with MJF. Jericho's feud with MJF, in my opinion, is one of the best and most entertaining stories AEW has ever produced. After the conclusion of his feud with MJF is where things started going off the rails for Jericho. The Inner Circle started a feud with the faction of MMA fighters known as American Top Team and Men of the Year, Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. This was just okay, but featuring UFC personalities that were little known to wrestling fans like Junior Dos Santos and Dan Lambert was one of many collabs that missed their mark within AEW. Jericho then began a feud with Eddie Kingston, which the Sportster labeled AEW's worst feud of 2022. This feud dragged on for a long time, and Jericho seemingly won every match between the two. Not only did this feud feel like it would never end, but this also led to Jericho turning heel for no reason and forming the Jericho Appreciation Society. Honestly, up until this point, everything was going pretty well. The Jericho and Eddie Kingston feud wasn't that great, but it was still pretty solid. Then Jericho's heel turn and the creation of a faction, it took away from Eddie Kingston's role in the program. Ideally, this matchup with Jericho was supposed to elevate Kingston, but instead it relegated him to an afterthought. This was where people began to wonder if Jericho was in it for the love of the game, or if he was in it to better himself only, which was a step back from what we were previously used to seeing when it comes to Jericho. Historically, the man was very unselfish, maybe even to a flaw. Think when he lost to Fandango clean at WrestleMania 29. With that being said, maybe Jericho deserved to be a little selfish, but at 51 years of age and with his best years clearly behind him, was this the best move for Jericho? Clinging to another up-and-coming star in Daniel Garcia also raised the question of Jericho just wanting to cling to anybody with relevance to elevate himself. Around this time, he would win the Ring of Honor title, a move that felt unnecessary to many. 2023 saw Jericho reform his tag team with Sammy Guevara, known as Les Sex Gods. Honestly, these two had pretty good matches together, but by this point, bro, Jericho was a mid-carder, and it was not always pretty to watch. In my opinion, and that of many wrestling fans, it would have benefited Jericho to have taken some time off, and came back a bigger deal with more to give to AEW. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we get to what was a banner year in the wrong direction for Jericho in 2024. That's right, it's the Learning Tree. Jericho formed yet another faction. This faction consisted of Brian Keith and Big Bill, formerly known as Big Cass. My god, 2024 led to another seemingly never-ending feud for Jericho. This time it was with Hook. Bodyslam.com ranked the 51 worst matches of AEW in 2024, and Jericho was featured 9 times. His matches involving Hook were also heavily featured. That list is comprised of the worst matches as they are rated from cagematch.net. Jericho won yet another title in the FTW title, and to finish the year strong, he became ROH champion again, a title he currently holds. Jericho turned heel on screen and leaned into the criticisms he receives by saying things like, quote, "I have to get my TV time."
Who wants more TV time? You know I do!
That's a shoot.
Apparently he works bad matches on purpose and is annoying on purpose. This has been confirmed by Conan and Disco Inferno on their podcast K100. Working bad matches on purpose is not a great look for any wrestler, let alone someone with the legacy and respect of Chris Jericho. Naturally, it brings about questions of his commitment to the betterment of the company he works for. On his podcast, The Masked Man Show with Kaz, former WWE writer Kazim summarized Jericho's presence in AEW in 2024, best in my opinion. To paraphrase, he said how just when you think Jericho's moving on from a feud, in this instance Hook, we finally can see Hook move on to bigger and better things, that damn Learning Tree music hits. Yeah, fans and critics alike are seemingly tired of Jericho at this stage in his career, and maybe they're right for thinking that. His work has been a little lackluster in my opinion. From his character work, to feuds, to in-ring work, Jericho is just missing the mark. Particularly in-ring is where Jericho is showing his age, and at 54, I don't know how much longer he can continue performing at a high level. Just last week on AEW Collision, he wrestled a pretty bad match against Dax Harwood. I mean, look at this. It's getting pretty ugly. From the please retire chants, to the poor performances in-ring, to seemingly selfish antics backstage, Jericho is facing an all-time low point in his career. It's so insane to watch because he was riding so high at his peak just a few short years ago. But there is more to it aside from his wrestling-related issues. Let's dive deeper into some of the more serious headlines involving Chris Jericho that greatly damaged his stock in recent years. The first incident of note, which on the serious scale isn't that serious, but it was not a great look for Jericho and AEW. On December 23rd, 2020, in the heart of a global pandemic, AEW aired their special Holiday Bash episode following a marquee NBA game between the Boston Celtics and Milwaukee Bucks. What ensued was an absolute roast of Jericho from NBA fans on Twitter. These are people who probably don't watch much, if any, wrestling since they were young kids, and likely haven't seen Jericho wrestle in a long time. One fan said Jericho is built like a baby mama, while another said, so he's the king of this knockoff WWE? People were saying that he's old and slow and shouldn't be in the ring anymore. What AEW likely saw as an opportunity to gain casual viewers by showcasing their most well-known star to a new audience backfired tremendously. What could have been a moment where AEW gained some new fans, instead turned into the company and its biggest star being laughed at and made fun of endlessly. Next up was Jericho's wife Jessica Irvin and her presence at the Capitol building incident on January 6, 2021. Wrestling fans on the internet dug up photos of her and other women at the building that day holding a sign that says "Women for Trump." These were posted on Facebook, and it was verified to be her due to her profile picture being of her and Jericho. No matter what end of the political spectrum you fall on, this was not a great look from a PR standpoint. Dave Meltzer noted in his Wrestling Observer newsletter how Jericho was not present with his wife in Washington, D.C. He also noted how his wife did not storm the building with other rioters. She was just in attendance. While keeping the political theme, let's talk about a controversy stemmed from a concert Jericho performed in 2020. His band Fozzy took stage at the Sturgis Rally, a biker festival in South Dakota. They also performed a show in North Dakota and Iowa within a couple of weeks of each other in August 2020, the height of the pandemic. Controversy ensued when attendees were photographed not wearing a mask or social distancing. This brought outrage to wrestling fans, as Jericho was set to wrestle Orange Cassidy live on Dynamite shortly after. Jericho defended his actions by stating that states like the Dakotas and Iowa had fewer number of illnesses. Then a study came out which linked the rally to 250,000 cases. Not a great look for Jericho. Cody Rhodes took to Twitter to assure fans that AEW was following testing guidelines to keep its performers and fans safe, and Jericho would follow the same testing routines. Last but certainly not least, there are the Kylie Ray allegations. I have to preface this by saying these are strictly rumors and allegations. Nothing has been confirmed in the court of law. I'll be brief with this because I don't want to defame the guy. However, in fairness to Jericho's fall from grace amongst fans, these rumors should at least be mentioned. Allegedly, Kylie Ray had some sort of inappropriate run-in with Jericho, which led to Ray signing an NDA. She was seemingly on the rise within AEW when it first launched, and then up and left in what felt random to many. Maybe these rumors are the culprit. They stem from when Jericho had a nasty exchange with a lawyer representing Ace Steel in his legal battle with AEW following the incidents at Brawl Out. It was alleged that Jericho was involved in trying to get some performers who saw the brawl between Punk, Steel, and the Elite to sign NDAs so the incident would not go public and hurt AEW. In closing, Jericho will retire as one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, whenever that time comes. Many fans likely have him in their top 10s or close to it. Where does Jericho rank for you? Is he one of your favorites? Why or why not? On the other hand, I think a lot of wrestling fans will agree that Jericho has hurt his legacy to a degree in recent years. To me, his legacy remains intact as one of the greatest of all time. Nothing can take away the fact he was the first ever undisputed champion. On top of that, he is one of the best performers with a microphone in their hand we have ever seen. He's up there with the likes of The Rock, CM Punk, and Ric Flair in that regard. His run as a soft-speaking heel in a suit from 2008 to 2009 is personally my favorite era of Jericho. I appreciated him more and more the older I got. He's the kind of guy that is like your favorite wrestler's favorite wrestler. Ironically, he left WCW because he felt like he was being held down in favor of older legends like Hulk Hogan. Nowadays, it seems he is the legend holding down young talent in AEW. He seems to always get the upper hands in feuds, even in his feud with MJF, arguably his last great contribution to AEW. He got the last laugh. Now the question remains, should Chris Jericho retire? What do you think? Are you sick of Chris Jericho, or are you still enjoying his work? Obviously, most of us respect his work, but I'd be lying if I said I'm still looking forward to watching him every single week. At the very least, he'd benefit from an extended break to make us all miss him again and anticipate his return. This has been the rise and fall of one of wrestling's best. Thanks for watching. Until the next one.